The castle sleeps under a crescent moon, its stone walls whispering secrets to the winter wind. Guards patrol the ramparts with heavy boots and heavier eyelids, torches casting long shadows that dance like ghosts. Inside, in chambers draped with velvet and silence, the Alpha King breathes deeply in his sleep, unaware that tonight his kingdom will be tested not by war, but by a woman in a crimson dress, with hair like fresh snow and a heart forged in hunger. The air tastes of frost and possibility. Somewhere in the city below, a bell tolls midnight, its deep resonance carrying across rooftops and through narrow alleys where the desperate huddle for warmth. The sound makes Sibella Stormvale's heart beat faster, reminding her that time is both her ally and her enemy. She has planned this night for 3 months, watching, learning, waiting for the perfect convergence of moon phase, guard rotation, and weather. Tonight, all the elements align. Tonight, she either saves her family or loses everything. Sibella moves through the darkness like smoke, her pale fingers tracing the cold stone of the castle's outer wall. The stone is ancient, worn smooth by centuries of weather, but her trained hands find the small imperfections, the tiny ledges, the hairline cracks that become handholds. She learned to climb before she learned to read, to steal before she learned to dream. Her father, Gods rest him, taught her that survival is an art form, that silence is currency, and that the powerful sleep soundly while the poor count their breaths. On his deathbed, he made her promise to protect the children, the forgotten ones, the street orphans who have no one. She has kept that promise for 5 years now, ever since she was 16, and suddenly responsible for lives beyond her own. Tonight, she puts every lesson into practice. Her red dress, chosen carefully, moves like liquid shadow in the darkness. The color is a calculated risk. If seen, it draws the eye, makes witnesses remember beauty instead of details. But in darkness, against stone, it disappears. Her white hair is her greatest liability and her greatest weapon. It marks her, makes her memorable, but it also makes her seem otherworldly, like something from a dream or nightmare. People hesitate when they see her, unsure if she's real. That hesitation has saved her life more than once. The castle's defenses are legendary, spoken of in whispers by thieves and mercenaries across the continent. 3 rings of guards, each more alert than the last. Iron gates blessed by ancient magic that burns those with ill intent. Traps designed by the kingdom's finest minds to catch even shadows. Men have died trying to breach these walls. Women, too. But Sibella has studied this place for months, watching from rooftops, bribing stable boys with bread she couldn't afford to spare, memorizing shift changes down to the minute. She knows that between midnight and dawn, there is a window of 17 minutes when the North Tower Guard rotates. 17 minutes to slip inside. 17 minutes to change everything. 17 minutes to save the children who call her mother, sister, savior. Her fingers find purchase on a decorative gargoyle, its stone face worn smooth by rain and time. She pulls herself up, her muscles burning with the effort. The dress restricts her movement slightly, but she refuses to dress as a man, refuses to hide what she is. Let them see a woman did this. Let them know that desperation makes anyone dangerous. The cold seeps through her thin clothing, and she wonders, not for the first time, if this is madness. Breaking into the Alpha King's stronghold. Stealing from a man who could have her tortured for days, before granting the mercy of death. But then she thinks of Pip's hollow cheeks, of Thomas's cough that won't stop, of Mara's eyes going dull with hunger. She thinks of winter coming, merciless and cold, and the knowledge that without money, some of them won't see spring. Her red dress clings to her body as she scales the wall, the fabric chosen deliberately. If she is seen, let them see something beautiful, something that makes them hesitate, something that makes them question what their eyes tell them. Beauty is a weapon as sharp as any blade, Her white hair is bound tight beneath a dark cloth, her feet wrapped in soft leather that makes no sound against stone. She is prepared for this as others prepare for war. She reaches the window, precisely where she knew it would be left unlatched by the careless chambermaid who drinks too much wine. Sibella had observed the woman for weeks, learned her habits, her weaknesses. A few extra coins in her apron pocket, appearing mysteriously, had ensured certain windows remained accessible. The chambermaid doesn't know she's been manipulated. Most people don't realize how easily they're moved by small kindnesses, small suggestions. Before we continue with the story, I want to thank everyone who supports the channel and loves our Alpha King romances. In the pinned comment, you'll find a special selection of the best Amazon audiobooks that inspire our stories. If you purchase any audiobook through those links, you'll be directly supporting the channel and helping us create more stories. Tell us where you're watching from and how old you are in the comments. I hope you enjoy the story. Inside, the corridor stretches empty and vast, lit by candles that have burned low. The air is different here, warm and scented with beeswax and roses. It's the smell of wealth, of comfort, of lives lived without fear of tomorrow. Sibella drops silently to the marble floor, her heart a drum in her chest, her breath controlled despite the fear that tastes like copper on her tongue. Fear is good. Fear keeps you sharp. Her father taught her that, taught her to embrace it, to use it, to let it fuel rather than freeze. The crown jewels are kept in the treasury, 3 floors below the throne room, behind a door that requires 2 keys and a blood oath. But Sibella has no intention of going to the treasury. She learned long ago that the most valuable things are kept closest to those who value them. The Alpha King, Balaran Slackhollow, keeps a private collection in his chambers. Pieces he inherited, pieces he prizes, pieces he never wears but cannot part with. She learned this from a servant girl who cleaned his rooms, a girl grateful for medicine when her mother fell ill, a girl who didn't realize that casual conversation over bread was reconnaissance. She moves through the castle like a ghost with purpose, avoiding the main halls, using servant passages her father mapped years ago when he worked here, before he was caught stealing food for a starving family and exiled. These passages are narrower, darker, used only by those invisible people who keep castles running. She passes storerooms full of enough food to feed her entire district for months. Linen closets stocked with sheets finer than any dress she's owned. Halls lined with paintings worth more than human lives. The wealth displayed so casually makes her anger burn bright and cold. The deeper she goes, the more the air changes. It grows warmer, heavier with the scent of burning wood and something else. Something primal that makes her skin prickle. Its power made tangible, alpha dominance so strong it lingers in the air like perfume. She is approaching the heart of the castle, the chambers of the king himself. Every instinct screams at her to turn back, to flee while she can. But Pip's face floats in her mind, his gap-toothed smile, his trust that she'll keep him safe. She breathes through the fear and continues. The door to his private room stands before her, carved oak reinforced with iron, but unlocked. Why would a king lock his door when he is the most dangerous thing in his own castle? When his very presence is enough to make grown warriors drop to their knees? Sibella pushes it open slowly, every muscle in her body coiled and ready to run. The door swings silently on well-oiled hinges, opening onto a world she has only imagined. The room is magnificent even in darkness. Tapestries depicting battles and coronations cover the walls, their threads gleaming dully in the firelight. A fireplace large enough to stand in burns low with embers, casting the room in shades of orange and shadow. Weapons line one wall, swords and axes that have seen real battle, their edges still sharp, still deadly. Books fill shelves, more books than Sibella has seen in her life, their leather spines embossed with gold. And in the center of it all, on a bed that could hold 5 men, draped in furs and silk, sleeps the Alpha King. Balaran Slackhollow is a legend made flesh. Even in sleep, his presence fills the space like a physical force. His muscled frame barely seems contained by the massive bed, each line of his body speaking of power and violence barely leashed. His long black hair spreads across the pillow like a raven's wing, catching the firelight. His beard is neat despite the late hour, framing a face that is both beautiful and terrifying in its masculine perfection. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, lips that look cruel even in repose. His chest rises and falls with the steady rhythm of a man who has never known fear, who has conquered every challenge, who rules with absolute authority. One arm is thrown above his head, revealing scars that crisscross his skin, evidence of battles won. Sibella's breath catches in her throat, trapped there by something she doesn't want to name. She has heard stories of the Alpha King all her life, how he unified the warring packs with strategy and brutal force, how he broke rebellions with his bare hands, how his enemies whisper his name with terror, and his allies speak it with reverence. She expected a monster, a tyrant, something inhuman. She sees a man, a beautiful, terrifying, powerful man who could kill her without waking fully. A man who, in sleep, looks almost peaceful, almost vulnerable. She forces herself to move, to tear her eyes away from him. She came here for a purpose, and she cannot afford to be distracted by the unexpected humanity of her enemy. To the left of his bed stands a cabinet of dark wood inlaid with silver, the craftsmanship exquisite. This is what she came for. Her fingers work quickly, picking the simple lock with tools she made herself, easing the door open with infinite care. The slight click sounds like thunder in the silent room, and she freezes, her eyes flying to the king. He doesn't stir. She breathes again. Inside the cabinet, jewels catch the faint firelight and throw it back in rainbow fragments. Rubies the size of robin eggs, glowing like captured fire. Emeralds that pulse with inner light, as if alive. Diamonds strung on platinum chains, each stone perfect and cold. And there, resting on a cushion of midnight velvet, the piece she came for specifically. A crown meant for a queen, never worn, its delicate circlet studded with gems that seem to hold starlight. It's worth enough to feed every starving child in the lower districts for a year. Maybe 2. She reaches for it, her hands steady despite everything. Despite the king sleeping mere feet away, despite the terror and exhilaration warring in her chest. She lifts it from its cushion, and it is heavier than she expected, cold and beautiful and powerful. The metal seems to hum under her fingers, as if it holds its own magic. For just a moment, she allows herself to imagine what it would be like to wear such a thing, to have power not stolen but given, to command rather than survive, to be the kind of woman who belongs in places like this. The fantasy lasts only a heartbeat. She is not that woman. She is a thief, a survivor, someone who takes what she needs to keep others alive. She tucks the crown into the leather satchel at her hip, the weight of it grounding her, reminding her why she's here. Behind her, the king shifts in his sleep, a low sound escaping his throat that is almost a growl, something primal and dangerous even in unconsciousness. Sibella freezes, her heart stopping mid-beat, her eyes wide. She watches him, every instinct screaming at her to run, but she remains still. Movement attracts predators. She learned that young. Her father taught her to be a stone, a shadow, invisible. Balaran settles, his breathing returning to its steady rhythm, and Sibella allows herself to breathe again. Her hands are shaking now, adrenaline making her fingers tremble. She tucks the crown into the leather satchel at her hip, then turns back to the cabinet. There are other pieces here, smaller, easier to sell, enough to make this risk worthwhile. She takes a necklace of sapphires, each stone deep blue like the ocean she's never seen but heard about in stories. A bracelet of twisted gold, warm and heavy in her palm. A ring set with a stone that seems to hold starlight, winking at her with promise. Each piece she takes is a week of food, a month of warmth, a season of safety. Each piece is survival for those who depend on her. She is closing the cabinet, her fingers trembling now with relief and exhaustion, her body beginning to understand that she might actually succeed when she hears it. A change in breathing, a shift in the air. The quality of the silence transforms from peaceful to predatory, the way the forest goes quiet before a storm. She turns slowly, her body already knowing what her mind doesn't want to accept, what every instinct is screaming. The Alpha King is awake. His eyes, golden in the firelight, burning like molten metal or like the eyes of a wolf in darkness, are fixed on her with an intensity that makes her feel like prey. But he doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't even seem to breathe. He just watches her with the patience of a predator who knows the rabbit has nowhere to run, with the curiosity of a man seeing something he's never encountered before. His gaze travels over her, taking in the white hair now falling loose from its binding, the red dress that seems to glow in the firelight, the satchel at her hip heavy with his treasures. And in his eyes, she sees not anger, but something far more dangerous. Interest. Fascination. A spark of something that might be respect. How long has he been watching? The thought terrifies her more than his awakening. Has he been awake this entire time, observing her rifle through his belongings, seeing her moment of fantasy with the crown, witnessing her fear and her courage? The idea makes her feel exposed, vulnerable in ways that have nothing to do with theft or punishment. She feels seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in her life, and it is both terrifying and exhilarating. Sibella does what she has done all her life when caught. She runs. She bolts for the door, her heart exploding in her chest, the weight of the stolen jewels bouncing against her hip. Behind her, she hears him rise, hears the whisper of sheets sliding across skin, the heavy fall of bare feet on stone, powerful and deliberate. He doesn't shout for guards, doesn't raise an alarm, doesn't call for help or backup. He comes for her himself, and somehow that is more terrifying than an army. The Alpha King, bare-chested and dangerous, pursuing her through his own castle like a wolf after wounded prey, like something out of nightmares and fevered dreams. She flies through the corridor, taking turns she memorized, heading for the servant stairs that will lead her to the kitchen, to the door that opens onto the garden, to freedom. Her lungs burn, her legs ache, but fear gives her wings. Behind her she can hear him, not running, just walking with steady, relentless purpose. He doesn't need to run. He knows this castle better than she does, knows she'll have to stop eventually, knows that escape is unlikely. But he doesn't know about her determination, about what she's capable of when survival is at stake, about the skills her father died teaching her. But Sibella has made a life out of unlikely. She crashes through the kitchen door, sending pots clattering, and a startled cook drops a ladle with a shriek that echoes off the stone walls. Sibella doesn't stop, doesn't apologize, doesn't even glance back. She hits the garden door at full speed, bursting into the cold night air that hits her lungs like a blessing, like freedom, like hope, and immediately begins to climb. Up the trellis heavy with winter-dead vines, over the decorative wall, onto the stable roof, higher, always higher. She climbs like a creature born to it, like something more than human, her hands finding holds in darkness, her body remembering every movement. The cold makes her fingers numb, but she doesn't slow. Can't slow. Won't slow. The children's faces float in her mind, urging her on. Pip, Thomas, Mara, all of them depending on her. She reaches the outer wall and allows herself one glance back, one moment to see if she's truly free, 1 second to confirm the impossible has happened. The Alpha King stands in the garden, his bare chest gleaming in the moonlight like marble, like something carved by ancient masters in worship of masculine power. His hair is wild around his shoulders, blown by the wind, making him look less like a king and more like a god of war, something primal and untamed. He is not chasing her. He is watching her, his golden eyes locked on hers across the distance. And in his eyes, even from this distance, she sees something that terrifies her more than anger, more than the promise of punishment. She sees interest, curiosity, something almost like amusement, like respect, as if she has done something no one else has dared, and he finds it fascinating rather than infuriating. Their eyes meet across the distance, and for one impossible moment, the world seems to hold still. The thief and the king, two people who should be enemies, connected by this moment of perfect understanding. She breached his defenses. He let her go, and neither of them knows quite what to do with that fact. With the electricity that arcs between them despite logic, despite everything that should make this impossible. Then Sibella drops over the wall and into the night, running until her legs give out, until she reaches the warrens of the lower city where kings do not follow, where the powerful dare not go. She collapses in an alley she knows, behind the baker's shop where old Marta leaves bread for strays, and she clutches the stolen crown to her chest and allows herself, finally, to feel the terror she has been holding back. It crashes over her in waves, making her shake, making her gasp, making her wonder if she's just made the biggest mistake of her life or saved it. The crown bites into her chest, cold and hard and real, proof that she succeeded, that the impossible happened. She slipped past the Alpha King's defenses alone. She took his treasures, and he let her go. Why? The question haunts her as dawn breaks over the city, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Sibella makes her way through the waking streets to the place she calls home, an abandoned warehouse at the edge of the docks. Inside, her family waits. Not blood family, but something just as strong. The children, there are 12 of them now, ranging from 4-year-old Pip with his gap-toothed smile to 16-year-old Mara with her clever hands and cautious heart. They are the forgotten ones, the orphans, the unwanted. Sibella collects them like others collect coins, gives them shelter and food and something more precious than either. Hope. They swarm her as she enters, their voices overlapping in questions and excitement. Did you get it? Was it scary? Are you hurt? She smiles, exhausted, and holds up the crown. It catches the morning light streaming through the broken windows and transforms into pure magic. The children gasp. This will feed us, Sibella says, her voice rough from running and fear and relief. This will keep us warm through winter. This will give us time. Mara steps forward, her dark eyes searching Sibella's face. And what will it cost you? Everything, Sibella thinks but does not say. Instead, she shrugs. It cost me a night's sleep. Nothing more. But she knows she's lying. In the king's eyes, she saw something that promises this is far from over. The castle erupts with activity at dawn when the theft is discovered. Guards are questioned, servants interrogated, the city watch mobilized. But the Alpha King gives strange orders. He does not describe the thief, does not mention the woman in the red dress with hair like winter. Instead, he tells his men to search quietly, to listen in taverns, to watch the markets for anyone selling jewels. His advisors are confused. His head of guard is frustrated. This is not how the Alpha King handles threats. Usually he is direct, brutal, efficient. But Balaran Slackhollow finds himself thinking of pale hands in moonlight, of fearless eyes that met his own, of the grace with which she ran. Not fleeing in terror, but moving with purpose, with skill, with a courage that spoke of desperation. She intrigues him. This woman who dared invade his private chambers, who took what was his, who looked at him without submission. In a world where everyone either fears him or wants something from him, she simply took what she needed and left. He wants to know why. He wants to know who. Days pass, and the jewels do not appear in any market, any pawn shop, any fence's inventory. It is as if they vanished with the woman. Balaran finds himself distracted during court sessions, his mind wandering to white hair and red fabric, to the scent that lingered in his chambers after she left, jasmine and fear and something wild. His beta, Marcus, a grizzled warrior who has known him since childhood, finally confronts him. "You're obsessed with this thief. Why not use magic to track the jewels? Why not put a bounty on her head?" Balaran considers the questions, staring out the window of his study at the sprawling city below. "Because," he says slowly, "I want to understand first. Someone who steals is either greedy or desperate. Greed I punish. Desperation I need to understand." Marcus snorts. "You've gone soft." Balaran's expression hardens, and the temperature in the room seems to drop. His golden eyes flash with the alpha dominance that can bring grown men to their knees. "I have gone nothing," he says quietly, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I am considering the full picture before I act. If you question my methods again, we will have a different conversation." Marcus immediately lowers his gaze, his neck bending in submission. "Forgive me, Alpha King." Balaran softens fractionally. "You are my friend, Marcus. You may question me, but trust that I have reason." "What reason?" "I don't know yet. That is what I intend to discover." And so, the Alpha King does something he has not done in years. He disguises himself. Simple clothes, rough and mended, the kind worn by laborers and dock workers. A hood to hide his distinctive features, to shadow the sharp planes of his face that have been carved onto coins. Dirt rubbed into his hands to hide their aristocratic smoothness, to make them look like they've known real work. He studies himself in a mirror and barely recognizes the man looking back. Without the crown, without the fine clothes, without the aura of power, he could be anyone. It is both humbling and liberating. He walks among his people, not as a ruler, but as a man. And what he sees disturbs him more deeply than any battlefield defeat. The city he thought prosperous has pockets of desperate poverty. Children sleep in doorways, their thin bodies huddled together for warmth, their faces gaunt with hunger. Families huddle around fires built from trash, the smoke acrid and choking. Old women beg for scraps outside bakeries, their hands gnarled with age and cold. How did he not know? How did his advisors not tell him? Or did they? And he was too focused on borders and treaties and power to listen, to truly see. He walks for days, listening to conversations in taverns, watching exchanges in markets, learning the rhythms of survival in the lower districts. And slowly, he begins to hear whispers. Stories of a woman in red, an angel some call her, who brings food to the hungry, medicine to the sick, who protects the children nobody else claims. They speak of her with reverence, with love. This ghost who appears and disappears, who asks for nothing, who gives everything. They speak of white hair that glows in moonlight, of hands that are gentle with the broken, of a voice that makes promises and keeps them. Balaran follows the stories like breadcrumbs, deeper into the poorest districts, through streets he's never walked, past suffering he's never acknowledged. Each day, the shame grows heavier. He is the Alpha King, the most powerful man in the kingdom, and he has allowed this to happen under his very nose. Until one evening, as the sun sets in a blaze of orange and gold, painting the grimy streets in false beauty, he sees her. Sibella Stormvale sits on the steps of an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by children like a queen on a throne made of love rather than gold. Her white hair gleams in the fading light, unbound and wild around her shoulders, catching the sunset and throwing it back in shades of rose and amber. She wears not the red dress, but simple clothes, mended and clean, the kind that speak of pride and poverty. A small girl sits in her lap, and Sibella is braiding her hair with patient hands, while telling a story that makes the children laugh, their voices bright and pure despite everything they've endured. Balaran stops, hidden in the shadow of a building, and simply watches. His breath catches in his throat. She is transformed. In his chambers, she was all tension and danger, a drawn bow ready to release, vibrating with the energy of survival. Here, she is soft, open, her laughter genuine and warm. She tickles the girl in her lap until she squeals with delight, then kisses her forehead with such tenderness that something in Balaran's chest tightens painfully. It's been so long since he felt this ache that has nothing to do with desire and everything to do with recognition. He is seeing something pure, something true, something that makes him want to be better than he is. This is why she stole. Not for herself, for them. He watches as she distributes food, as she checks a boy's scraped knee, as she settles an argument between two children with wisdom and humor. She is more than a thief. She is a mother to the motherless, a protector to the unprotected. She is doing what his kingdom should do, what he should ensure happens. Shame is not an emotion Balaran experiences often, but he feels it now, hot and bitter. This woman, with nothing, gives everything. He, with all the power in the land, has allowed suffering to exist in his own city. Over the following weeks, he returns again and again, drawn like a moth to flame, unable to stay away even when logic tells him he should. Always in disguise, always careful, watching from shadows and learning the rhythms of her life. He begins to help in small ways, unable to simply observe when he has the power to ease suffering. He leaves coins where Sibella will find them, tucked into cracks in the warehouse wall, placed on windowsills. He leaves food at the warehouse door at night. Good food, bread and cheese and dried meat. He anonymously pays a doctor to visit the district, claiming to be a concerned merchant. He tells himself he is gathering information, learning about her, preparing for the confrontation that must eventually come. But the truth is simpler and more complicated. He is fascinated by her, captivated, drawn in ways he doesn't fully understand and can't seem to control. One evening, he arrives to find chaos that makes his blood run cold. One of the children, a boy named Thomas, has collapsed with fever, his small body burning and convulsing. Sibella is frantic, her usual composure shattered, pressing a cool cloth to the boy's forehead, while Mara runs for the doctor who rarely comes to this part of town, who may not come at all. The other children huddle together, frightened and silent, their eyes huge in their thin faces. Balaran steps forward without thinking, without considering the consequences of revealing his knowledge, his capabilities. "I can help," he says, his voice rough with concern. Sibella's head snaps up, her eyes meeting his, and for a moment, he thinks she recognizes him. The shape of his jaw, the color of his eyes, something that triggers memory. But the hood shadows his face, and desperation makes her less careful than she would normally be. "You know medicine?" Her voice breaks on the question, hope and fear warring in her expression. "Some," he lies, because he knows far more than some. Enough. He studied with the best healers in the kingdom, learned battlefield medicine from veterans, read every text on the subject. He knows this. He kneels beside the boy, assessing with trained eyes. Thomas is small for his age, malnourished, which makes everything worse. This is lung fever, dangerous but treatable if caught in time. Balaran begins to issue instructions, his voice taking on the tone of command he can't quite suppress, and Sibella follows them without question, their hands working together, their focus absolute. He tells her to fetch cold water, specific herbs if she has them, clean cloths. She moves with efficiency, trusting him because she has no choice, because Thomas needs help and he's offering it. Hours pass in a blur of fever and fear. Balaran works with steady hands, drawing on every piece of knowledge he's ever gained, every lesson learned. He makes poultices, forces medicine between the boy's lips, monitors his breathing. Sibella works beside him, following his lead, her own expertise showing in how she handles the child with gentleness despite her fear. They work in harmony, anticipating each other's movements, becoming a team without conscious decision. Finally, as dawn approaches, the boy's fever breaks. Color begins to return to his cheeks. His breathing eases. He will live. Sibella slumps against the wall, exhaustion and relief written on every line of her body, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice raw with emotion. "I don't even know your name. I thought I was going to lose him." "I couldn't," she breaks off, unable to finish. Balarin hesitates, caught between truth and deception, between what he should say and what he wants to. "Call me Raven," he says finally, choosing the first alias that comes to mind, thinking of his hair, of the way he stalks through shadows. Raven. She tests the name on her tongue, then offers a small smile that makes his heart skip. "I'm Sibella, but you probably already know that." "I know," he says without thinking, then curses himself silently when her eyes narrow with suspicion and intelligence. "Everyone knows you," he adds quickly, trying to recover. "The angel of the lower districts. The stories are everywhere. People speak of you with reverence." Her expression hardens. "I'm no angel. Angels don't have to steal to survive." "You steal for them," he observes, gesturing to the sleeping children. "Not for yourself. Does that make it more noble?" She laughs, bitter. "The law doesn't care about my reasons. Maybe the law should." She looks at him then, really looks, and he feels exposed despite the hood, despite the disguise. "Who are you?" she asks quietly. "You're not from here. Your hands are too clean, your speech too educated. You're slumming, seeing how the poor live. Is that it?" "No," he says firmly. "I'm trying to understand how I failed to see." The admission surprises them both. Sibella's expression softens fractionally. "You're not responsible for the kingdom's neglect." If only she knew. Over the following weeks, Raven becomes a fixture in the warehouse. He brings supplies, helps repair the roof, teaches the older children to read. And with every day, every moment spent in Sibella's presence, Balarin falls deeper into something he doesn't have a name for. She is extraordinary. Not just beautiful, though she is that, with her ethereal coloring and fierce eyes. She is strong, clever, compassionate, quick to laugh and quicker to defend. She questions him constantly, debates him, challenges every assumption he makes. She makes him think, makes him question, makes him want to be better, and she affects him physically in ways he cannot control. When she brushes past him, his skin ignites. When she smiles at him, his heart races. When she touches his hand in passing, every instinct screams at him to claim her, to mark her, to make her his. But he restrains himself. She doesn't know who he is. She trusts Raven, the helpful stranger. If she knew he was the king, the man she stole from, would she run? One night, they sit on the warehouse roof under stars that seem close enough to touch. The children are asleep below, and the city is quiet. Sibella has been unusually subdued all evening, and finally she speaks. "I stole from the king," she says quietly. Balarin's heart stops, but he keeps his voice level. "Why are you telling me?" "Because you should know who I am, what I am." She draws her knees to her chest, looking small despite her strength. "I stole the crown jewels from his private chambers, from his room while he slept. It was the most reckless, stupid thing I've ever done. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because Thomas needed medicine and Pip needed shoes, and winter is coming and I couldn't watch them suffer." She turns to look at him, moonlight painting her face in silver and shadow. "I'm a thief, Raven. I'm not good. I'm not noble. I'm just trying to keep them alive." Balarin is silent for a long moment, wrestling with truth and deception, with duty and desire. Then he reaches out and takes her hand, feeling her pulse jump under his fingers. "You are the most noble person I've ever met," he says quietly. "You risk everything for others. You give all you have. You see suffering and act while others look away. If that's not good, I don't know what is." "The king will hunt me," she whispers. "When he finds me, and he will, I'll hang. Or worse. Maybe the king will surprise you. Maybe he'll want to understand before he judges. Kings don't understand. They rule, they punish, they take. What if you're wrong? What if this king could learn?" She laughs, sad and disbelieving. "From who? Me? A thief from the gutters? Why not?" He shifts closer, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "You've already taught me more about courage and compassion than I learned in years." "I've taught you?" She shakes her head. "Raven, you barely know me." "I know enough," he says. And then, because he cannot help himself, because every day of deception is torture, he adds, "I know you're brave and brilliant and beautiful. I know you make me want to be better. I know that every moment with you is—" He stops, overwhelmed by the truth of what he's about to say. "Is what?" she prompts, her voice barely audible. "Everything," he finishes. "Every moment with you is everything." The air between them crackles with tension. Sibella's breath catches, her eyes wide and dark. "Raven," she begins, but he shakes his head. "Don't. Don't tell me all the reasons this is impossible. I know them. I recite them to myself every night. He meets her eyes. "I needed you to know." She stares at him, and he sees the war in her expression. Fear and hope, doubt and desire. Then, slowly, she leans forward and kisses him. It is soft at first, tentative, a question. He answers by pulling her closer, deepening the kiss, pouring everything he feels into it. She tastes like possibility, like home, like every good thing he's been missing without knowing it. When they break apart, both breathless, Sibella rests her forehead against his. "This is insane," she whispers. "I don't even know who you really are." "Yes, you do," he says. And it's true. She knows him better than anyone, knows the man beneath the crown, the heart beneath the armor. She just doesn't know his name. They become inseparable after that night. During the day, they care for the children, repair the warehouse, organize supplies. At night, they steal moments together, learning each other's bodies and souls, sharing secrets and dreams. Balarin has never felt so alive, so seen, so real. For the first time in his life, he is loved not for his power or position, but for himself. But the deception gnaws at him. Every time she touches him, every time she whispers his false name, guilt twists in his chest. He needs to tell her. She deserves to know. But fear holds him back. Fear that she'll hate him. Fear that she'll run. Fear that this perfect thing they've built will shatter. The decision is taken from him when Marcus finds him one evening at the warehouse. The beta arrives with guards, having finally tracked his king's mysterious absences to this place. He bows immediately upon seeing Balarin, his voice formal. "Alpha King, we've been searching for you. There's an urgent matter at court. The world seems to stop." Balarin sees the moment Sibella understands, sees the color drain from her face, sees betrayal and horror and fury war in her expression. She stands frozen by the children, one hand protectively on Mara's shoulder. "Sibella," Balarin begins, pulling back his hood, letting her see his face fully for the first time in context. "You," she breathes. She can't seem to finish, can't seem to reconcile the man she's fallen for with the king she feared. "I can explain," he says, stepping toward her. "Don't." Her voice cracks like a whip. "Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't." She swallows hard, her eyes bright with unshed tears. You lied. This whole time. You let me trust you. Let me. Her voice breaks. I never lied about my feelings, he says desperately. Everything I said, everything we shared, that was real. I am Raven. I'm just also Ballerin. But the man you know, the man who loves you, he's real. The man I know doesn't exist, she spits. He was a fantasy, a disguise. You came here to catch me, didn't you? This was all a game, a way to get me to confess, to trust you enough to... Oh, gods. She presses a hand to her mouth, looking ill. It wasn't like that, Ballerin insists. I came to understand. And then I stayed, because I couldn't leave. Because you... He runs a hand through his hair, frustrated and aching. Because I fell in love with you. Love? She laughs, harsh and painful. You don't love me. Kings don't love thieves. You were amusing yourself, and I was stupid enough to believe it meant something. Sibella, please. No. She backs away, gathering the children behind her like a shield. Take your jewels. Take your crown. Arrest me if you want. But get out of my home. I'm not arresting you, he says firmly. I'm not here to punish you. Then why are you here? She demands, her voice rising. What do you want from me? Everything, he says, echoing his words from the roof, from that perfect night that seems a lifetime ago. I want to make things right. I want to fix the kingdom so no one has to steal to survive. I want you beside me. I want. He meets her eyes, his own full of desperate honesty. I want you to forgive me. Forgiveness is not given because someone wants it, she says coldly. It's earned. And you, Your Majesty, have a long way to go. She turns her back on him, dismissing him as she would a servant. The insult is clear, and Marcus bristles. His beta steps forward, growling low. You dare turn your back on your king? Sibella spins back, and her eyes blaze with such fury that even Marcus steps back. I dare more than that. I've stolen from him, lied to him, and broken his heart as thoroughly as he broke mine. What more can he do to me? Ballerin raises a hand, stopping Marcus from responding. She's right, he says quietly. She owes me nothing. He looks at Sibella, memorizing her face, the proud set of her shoulders, the pain in her eyes that he put there. I'll go, but I want you to know. The kingdom is changing. The districts will be funded, the children protected. I'm establishing programs, opening storehouses, reforming taxes. Everything you told me. Everything you showed me. I'm fixing it. Because of guilt? She asks bitterly. Because you were right. Because I was blind and you made me see. He takes one step closer, stopping when she tenses. Because even if you never forgive me, I'm going to be the king you deserve. He leaves before she can respond, his heart in tatters, his soul screaming at him to stay, to fight. But he has learned something from Sibella. True love is not about possession. It's about sacrifice. If she needs him gone, he'll go. The following months are the longest of Ballerin's life. He throws himself into reform with single-minded intensity. He visits every poor district personally, speaks to families, learns names, understands struggles. He opens the royal storehouses, redistributes wealth, punishes corrupt officials, and establishes systems to ensure no child goes hungry. He is ruthless in his prosecution of those who exploit the poor, fierce in his protection of the vulnerable. His court learns quickly that the Alpha King has found a new passion, and they adapt or find themselves replaced. But every night, alone in his chambers, he stares at the empty space where the jewels once sat and thinks of white hair and red dresses and laughter that made him feel human. He aches for her, dreams of her, wants her with an intensity that borders on madness. His wolf howls for its mate, recognizing her even if she refuses to recognize him. He has Marcus keep him informed. He knows that Sibella still cares for the children, that the warehouse has been mysteriously renovated, that food and supplies appear regularly at her door. She doesn't know it's him sending them. Or maybe she does, and chooses not to acknowledge it. He doesn't care. He'll take care of her from the shadows if that's all she'll allow. Winter comes, harsh and bitter, and with it, danger. A faction of nobles who oppose Balarin's reforms begins to push back. They see his compassion as weakness, his changes as threats to their power. Whispers of rebellion begin to circulate. Balarin handles it as he handles all threats to his rule. Swiftly, brutally, efficiently. He may have learned compassion from Sibella, but he has not forgotten how to be a king. Those who threaten his people find themselves facing the full force of alpha dominance. He is generous to the weak and merciless to the wicked. It is a balance, and he walks it with the confidence of a man who knows his purpose. One night, as snow falls thick over the city, Marcus brings him news that makes his blood run cold. There's been an attack on the lower districts. A group of nobles, angry about the reforms, hired mercenaries to burn warehouses and drive out the poor. Sibella's warehouse? Balarin is already moving, already grabbing his sword. Yes. Marcus hesitates. She's missing. The children are safe, evacuated by neighbors, but no one has seen her since the fire started. Balarin doesn't remember running, doesn't remember shifting. He only knows that one moment he's in the castle, and the next he's in the lower districts, following the scent of smoke and fear, and under it all, faint but unmistakable, jasmine and wildness. Sibella. He finds her in an alley behind the burning warehouse, fighting 3 mercenaries with a fury born of desperation. She's armed with a piece of wood, blood running from a cut on her forehead, her dress torn. She's magnificent and terrifying, and she's going to die because she's outnumbered and outmatched. Balarin doesn't think. He attacks. The mercenaries never stood a chance. The Alpha King in a fury is unstoppable. He tears through them like they're made of paper, his movements too fast to follow, his strength overwhelming. It's over in seconds. They're either unconscious or running, and he's gathering Sibella into his arms, checking her for injuries, his hands shaking with fear and rage. Are you hurt? His voice is rough, barely human. Tell me you're all right. I'm fine, she gasps, but she's trembling. The children, are they? Safe. They're all safe. I have people taking them to the castle. The castle? She pulls back, looking at him with wide eyes. You can't. They'll be afraid. They don't belong. They belong wherever I say they belong. He cups her face, his thumbs gentle despite the violence he just committed. And right now, they belong somewhere safe, warm, and protected. As do you. I'm not going to your castle, she says. But there's less heat in it now. Exhaustion making her sway. Yes, you are. He lifts her easily, cradling her against his chest. We'll discuss everything else later. Right now, you need a healer and rest. She's too tired to fight. She lets him carry her through the snow-covered streets, lets him bring her to the castle she once infiltrated, lets him take her to a guest chamber where healers wait. But when they've cleaned her wounds and given her tea for shock and left them alone, she looks at him with something in her eyes he can't read. Why did you come? She asks quietly. Because you were in danger. You've protected the districts. You've done everything you promised. You don't owe me more. I owe you everything, he says fiercely, kneeling beside her chair so they're eye level. Everything I've become, every good thing I've done, it's because of you. And when I thought I might lose you, might never get the chance to tell you. He takes her hand, pressing it to his chest where his heart races. I don't want to be king without you. I don't want to be anything without you. She stares at him, tears finally spilling over. You hurt me, she whispers. You lied to me. I know. I'm sorry. I was a coward. I should have told you immediately who I was. I was afraid of losing you, and in trying to keep you, I lost you anyway. But Sibella, he tightens his grip on her hand. I love you, not as a king loves a subject, but as a man loves a woman. Completely, desperately, eternally. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if you let me. How? She searches his face. How do I trust you again? Test me, he says immediately. Challenge me. Question everything I do. Hold me accountable. I want you to. I need you to. Without you, I'm just a king on a throne. With you, I can be what the kingdom needs. She's quiet for so long he thinks she'll refuse. Then, slowly, she says, the children come with me. Wherever I go, they go. They're not negotiable. Hope flares in his chest. They're already being settled in the East Wing. I've assigned tutors, caregivers, whatever they need. And you'll oversee it all because no one knows better than you what they require. I want access to the treasury accounts. I want to know where money is going, how it's being spent on the districts. Done. You'll have full transparency. I want to be involved in policy decisions that affect the poor. I want a voice in court. You'll sit beside me as an advisor. He pauses. Or as my queen, if you'll have me. Her breath catches. You're asking me to marry you? Eventually, when you're ready, when you trust me again. He brings her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles with reverence. I'm asking you to give me a chance to win you back. To prove I'm the man you fell in love with, not despite being king, but including it. She looks at him for a long moment, and he sees the war in her eyes, the battle between hurt and hope. Then finally, she nods. A chance, she says. That's all I'm promising. It's more than I deserve, he says honestly. I'll take it. The weeks that follow are tentative, careful. Sibella stays at the castle, overseeing the children's care, learning the workings of governance. Ballerin treats her like spun glass, giving her space, showing her through actions what words cannot convey. He opens every door to her, shares every decision, seeks her counsel on matters great and small. He shows her the man he is in every context, not just the one she first knew. Slowly, trust begins to rebuild. They work together during the day, planning reforms, visiting districts, speaking to people. At night, they dine with the children, Ballerin getting on the floor to play with Pip, listening to Mara's dreams of becoming a scholar, treating each child with the gentle devotion he once showed only to Sibella. She watches him with the children and sees the father he'll be. She watches him in court and sees the king he's become. She watches him with her and sees the man she fell in love with, no longer hidden beneath disguise, but fully present, fully himself. One evening, she finds him in the garden where she once escaped from him. He stands at the wall, looking up at the path she climbed, a small smile on his face. Remembering your thief? She asks, coming to stand beside him. Remembering the moment my life changed, he corrects. I woke up and saw a ghost in red and white, fearless and beautiful, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. You could have caught me then, stopped me. I didn't want to stop you. He turns to her, his golden eyes warm. I wanted to understand you. I still do. Every day with you, I discover something new. You're infinite, Sibella. Endlessly surprising, endlessly brave. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. She looks down at her hands. Terrified of trusting you and being hurt again. Terrified of loving you and losing myself. Terrified that this is all a dream, and I'll wake up back in that warehouse with nothing. He takes her hands, warming them between his own. Then let me give you something tangible, something real. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a ring. Not the ornate thing that sat in his cabinet, but something simple. A silver band set with a single diamond that catches moonlight. "This was my mother's," he says quietly. "She gave it to my father not because he was a king, but because he was hers. I want to give it to you for the same reason. Not because I'm a king who wants a queen, but because I'm a man who loves you beyond reason, beyond sense, beyond life itself." He drops to one knee, and Sibella's hands fly to her mouth. "Sibella Stormvale, you slipped past my defenses, stole my treasures, and captured my heart. You showed me what it means to truly lead, to truly serve, to truly love. I'm not the king I was before you. I'm better, stronger, more complete. Marry me. Not for political alliance, not for duty, but because we're meant to be together. Because you're my home, and I want to be yours." Tears stream down her face. She thinks of all they've been through, all the pain and joy and growth. She thinks of the man kneeling before her, powerful enough to conquer nations, but gentle enough to braid a little girl's hair. She thinks of the future they could build, the kingdom they could nurture, the love they could share. "Yes," she whispers. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slides the ring on her finger, then stands and kisses her with all the pent-up longing of months apart, months of yearning and healing. She kisses him back, pouring forgiveness and love and promise into it. Around them, the garden seems to hold its breath, and above them, stars witness the moment a thief and a king become simply two people who found each other against all odds. The wedding takes place in spring, when the world is reborn and full of hope. It is not a traditional royal affair. Sibella refuses the grand cathedral in favor of the palace gardens, open to all who wish to attend. The lower districts empty as people stream to the castle, no longer a symbol of distance but of promise. The children stand with Sibella, dressed in fine clothes but still themselves, their laughter and joy infectious. Balarin stands at the altar in formal regalia, every inch the Alpha King, but his eyes are only for the woman walking toward him. Sibella wears white, her hair unbound and crowned with flowers, her smile radiant. She looks like winter's blessing, like hope made flesh, like everything he never knew he needed. When the officiant asks if anyone objects, a ripple of nervous laughter goes through the crowd. Who would dare? But Balarin surprises everyone by speaking. "I object," he says, and the garden goes silent. "Not to the marriage," he clarifies quickly, "but to the vows we were going to speak. They're too formal, too distant for what we are." He turns to Sibella. "May I say my own?" She nods, tears already forming. "Sibella, I vow to see you, not as my subject, not as my queen, but as you truly are. I vow to listen when you challenge me, to change when you show me I'm wrong, to grow alongside you. I vow to protect the vulnerable as you taught me, to rule with compassion as you showed me, to never forget that strength is not just power, but care. I vow to love you in public and in private, in triumph and in struggle, in life and beyond. You made me more than a king. You made me human, and I am yours, completely, for all my days." The crowd is silent, many wiping tears. Then Sibella speaks, her voice clear and strong. "Balarin, I vow to trust you. It's the hardest promise I can make, but I make it freely. I vow to stand beside you as an equal, to challenge you when needed and support you always. I vow to build with you a kingdom where children don't need to steal, where the powerful protect the weak, where love is not just for the privileged. I vow to remind you who you are when the crown grows heavy, to be your peace when duty demands too much. I stole from you once. Now I give you something freely. My heart, my loyalty, my future. Take them, and know they're yours by choice, not conquest. There is not a dry eye in the garden. When they kiss to seal their vows, the crowd erupts in cheers. The celebration that follows is unlike any the kingdom has seen. The Alpha King dances not just with his bride, but with every child she brought to the castle, with common folk who never thought to see the inside of the palace, with anyone who wishes to join. Music and laughter fill the air until dawn. That night, alone finally, Balarin carries Sibella to his chambers. Their chambers now. She looks around at the room she once infiltrated as a thief and laughs. Should I be offended that security hasn't improved? Why would I improve it? He sets her down gently, his hands framing her face. I'm hoping you'll slip past my defenses again and again, for the rest of our lives. She kisses him, deep and promising. Consider them thoroughly breached, my king. Just Balarin, he murmurs against her lips. Here, in this room, I'm just yours. And they are, finally, simply two people who found each other in darkness and chose to build light. A thief and a king. A woman who stole jewels, and the man who gave her his heart. Together, they'll reshape the kingdom into something neither could have built alone. Something strong and compassionate, fierce and kind, enduring and true. Because the woman who slipped past the Alpha King's defenses alone for the crown jewels taught him that the greatest treasure is not what you possess, but what you give, and the greatest strength is not in taking, but in opening your heart and letting someone steal it. Years later, when their children play in the gardens and the kingdom thrives in peace and prosperity, Balarin will sometimes find Sibella on that wall, looking out over the city they've nurtured together. He'll wrap his arms around her from behind, rest his chin on her shoulder, and ask what she sees. Hope, she'll say. I see hope everywhere. And it's real this time. Not stolen, not temporary. Real. Because of you, he'll remind her. Because of us, she'll correct. Always us. And in the distance, children will laugh, safe and fed and loved. The streets will bustle with life and opportunity. And the castle that once represented power and distance will stand as a symbol of what happens when someone dares to slip past defenses, to challenge assumptions, to steal not treasures, but hearts. The Alpha King learned that the mightiest ruler is not the one who conquers, but the one who serves. And the thief learned that the greatest riches are not taken, but given freely in love. Together they proved that some things are worth risking everything for. Some people are worth rebuilding yourself for. And some loves are destined to transform not just two hearts, but an entire kingdom. The woman who came for crown jewels left with something far more valuable, a king who became a man, a heart that chose to trust again, a future built on truth rather than deception, on partnership rather than power, on love that was earned through action, tested by pain, and proven through time. She slipped past the Alpha King's defenses alone for the crown jewels. He demanded her alive, not to punish, but to cherish. And in the end, they both found what they were truly searching for. Not treasure or power or security, but home. In each other's arms, they found home. And they lived, not in fairy tale perfection, but in real, messy, beautiful partnership. Building a legacy not of conquest, but of compassion, not of dominance, but of devotion. They ruled together, loved fiercely, and showed their kingdom that the greatest stories are not about heroes and villains, but about two people who choose each other, again and again, despite everything. The crown jewels were eventually found and returned to their proper place, but neither Balarin nor Sibella ever considered them the true treasure. That honor belonged to what they built together. A love that changed a kingdom. A partnership that proved transformation is always possible. A family that showed the abandoned and forgotten that they matter. In the end, the woman in the red dress with hair like winter and courage like fire didn't just steal from a king. She stole him, completely and irrevocably. And he, fierce and dangerous to the world, but tender only with her, gave himself willingly, knowing that the best things in life are not taken by force, but offered in love. This is how a thief became a queen, how a king learned to be human, how two broken people found wholeness in each other, how a single act of desperate courage changed everything. She slipped past his defenses. He demanded her alive. And together, they proved that love, real love, is the greatest heist of all, because it steals your fear and gives you hope. It takes your loneliness and offers belonging. It demands your walls come down and promises to protect what lies beneath. And in a kingdom once cold with distance and rigid with hierarchy, warmth spread like spring after endless winter. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen to a fortress is for someone brave enough to breach it, caring enough to see what's inside, and loving enough to stay. The Alpha King kept his queen close, not out of possession, but out of reverence. And the queen challenged her king, not out of spite, but out of love. Together, they showed their people that power is not about ruling over others, but about lifting them up. That wealth is not in gold hoarded, but in lives enriched. That legacy is not in monuments built, but in hearts touched. Balaran Slackhollow, Alpha King, fierce warrior, absolute ruler, was brought to his knees by a woman who dared to treat him as equal, who saw past crown and title to the lonely man beneath, who loved him not because she had to, but because she chose to, again and again. Cybella Stormvale, thief, protector, survivor, learned that trusting again is the bravest thing anyone can do, that love is not weakness, but the ultimate strength, that she deserved not just to survive, but to thrive, to be cherished, to build a life beyond mere subsistence. Their story became legend, not the sanitized version told in ballads, but the real one, messy and complicated and true. The story of how brokenness can heal, how enemies can become lovers, how the most unlikely partnerships can change the world. And on quiet nights, when the kingdom sleeps and the children dream, Balaran and Cybella will stand together in the place where their story began, where she first saw him, vulnerable in sleep, where he first saw her, fearless in flight. They'll hold each other and remember that the greatest adventures start with a single act of courage. She had the courage to take what she needed. He had the courage to change what was wrong. Together, they had the courage to love despite fear, despite pain, despite every reason not to. And that courage built something lasting, something true, something that proved the cynic wrong and the dreamer right. Love does conquer all, not because it's magic, but because it's work. Not because it's destiny, but because it's choice. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. The woman who slipped past the Alpha King's defenses alone for the crown jewels became the queen who ruled beside him, transformed him, completed him. The king who demanded her alive became the man who lived for her, protected her, worshipped her. And the kingdom they built together became a testament to what happens when power meets compassion, when strength embraces vulnerability, when two hearts beat as one. This is their story. Not perfect, but true. Not simple, but profound. Not ending, but beginning again with each sunrise, each challenge, each moment they choose each other. Because the best love stories don't end with happily ever after. They continue, deepening and evolving through all the days that follow, through arguments and reconciliations, through doubt and faith, through change and constancy. Love is not a destination. It's a journey they take together, hand in hand, heart to heart, forever. She stole his crown jewels. He stole her heart. And together, they created something neither theft, nor power, nor destiny could have produced alone. They created a love story for the ages, real, raw, redemptive, and absolutely undeniably worth every risk they took to find each other. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this beautiful love story. Let us know what you thought of this tale full of emotions and surprises. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story from 0 to 10 if it touched your heart. And if you enjoyed the plot, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the amazing new stories coming soon. See you next time.